Okay, so everybody's here. Should we get started? Looking forward to everybody's demo. Any team like to start first?
We can start.
Cool.
Anna and I'm going to go ahead and start first and talk about a couple pieces, local storage, and Anna will address routes a little bit more. I'll go ahead and start screen share here. Get that out of the way. Come on, there we go. All right, so our story was, as a user, I want to set up a new shopping list so I can start tracking purchased items. This is where we're going to be generating or associating the list with a user token. Creating a new list consists of the following sequence: generating a new unique token, saving the token to local storage, and then show the user the list view. Luckily, this tokens.js already existed, which helps to generate the token, which we'll take a look at in a moment. For users who don't have a token or list, there will be a button or link, Anna and I chose button, existing on the home screen to allow them to create the new list. It will also have a second function, which will generate a new token to save it to local storage. Once it's been created and saved, the user is automatically redirected to the list view. But if a user already has a token in local storage, then they will still already be directed to the list view. As everyone has probably seen by now, this is how the welcome screen looks. Right now we see we have nothing in our local storage. Once a user is here, if they click the add list, it does generate the token as well as direct them automatically to the list view. And then they are able to toggle between the list and the add item views. They're also able to click and add like we were able to before. Going into the code, Anna and I added a couple new files. There's a home.js as well as local storage. When we're in the home file, so it initially is looking for, is the token there? If it is, we're using this get history hook that we have up here to push them to the list. If not, then we get to go through the process that I just demoed. When they're on the welcome screen, the on click will, which is associated to that at list button, will send us off to looking for the token, which is hanging out over here in this function in that tokens.js file that already existed. It has a huge array of words that is being used to generate this token. We're using a for loop here that already, again, I like to clarify, already existed. It generates 3 words. We can change that if we wanted to, but if anybody wants to and hasn't yet, there are a couple links describing what's going on with this token, how it's being generated, and why it's happening this way. Considering the scope of the project, 3 words is plenty, in my opinion, at least. So a bunch of stuff happens in here. I'm not going to get too into it with the tokens being generated, but then once that's finished, then we're going to head over to our local storage, to this function, the add key value pair to local storage. Long name, but we were advised that it's okay to be able to have long descriptive names for the functions at this time. Generates a key and a new value, sets it to the local storage. With that new value that is generated, we hop back over here. It's using props to set the token, which then pushes us to the list view, again, using that use history hook that is being used in this project. So with all of that, Anna, if you want to demo the other view here, and then also the routes.
Sure. Okay. Did that work? Can everyone see my screen? Okay, cool. So I'm using the GitHub generated link. We don't have a token, so we get to see the welcome screen as Jessica showed us. And when we click the button, we get the token. We end up on the list view. And if we try going back to our home screen, we are taken back to the list because there's already a token. And we addressed that. Jessica already showed you guys when you click the button, this is the line that takes us to the list view when it's generated. There's this verification here for the token when you first get to the welcome screen. So if you already have it, you don't see these other tags and the button, you go straight to the list view. And in our app.js, we also check for, in the routes, we check for the token if the user goes straight to the list URL, because they're not supposed to see the list if they don't have a token stored. So there's this verification for it. And if there is a token, then they get to see the list. And if there isn't, they are redirected to our home screen. I think we covered all the acceptance criteria. Yeah.
Oh, it looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I really like what you, oh, go ahead.
oh, yeah, no, I just had a kind of a constructive comment on that. It's totally meets the acceptance criteria. It's really awesome to see the work you did there. One little, like, we're going to get more into this with use effect and other kind of functional, like life cycle hooks. But if you're thinking about how the component mounts, when you're doing that history push within the component, when you're like checking, hey, do we have a token? And then if not, we're going to go and push to another route. Right now we're doing that in render, which is totally fine, but you might have a side effect where you're going to see that component, because it's happening in the render, like after it's rendered and presented, it's going to like flash, and then it's going to push to the next thing. So again, totally fine right now, but as we're like polishing up, you know, the CSS comes way later, but as we're polishing this up, maybe think in terms of like, okay, when is this activity happening? Because it might create like a flash before that was maybe too fast to see at this point. Don't know.
Well,
something to consider.
That might be addressing, I did notice when kind of testing through, if I refreshed after kind of having it already up, there was a warning that was popping up in the console that was addressing something to do with render. So that might be what you're bringing up right now, Skylar. I'm not positive, but.
Yeah, and again, we can kick this down the trail, but just so you're aware, just the general kind of theme of life cycles. They're complex in reality, but there's, you know, ways that you can take actions before you actually paint something or render something to the page. Because right now we're kind of like mixing that rendering with the logic, and that's fine. But we could pull that out and have that check and push onto the history API happen like before we even get to that render point. Not a deal right now. Awesome demo, thank you. That was like really well put together.
Yeah.
Really awesome. I think just going off of what Sky said, I think that could be, if you know, the redirect, if it was applied to the others, then that would probably solve that problem. If that was
that's what I was thinking, that we could just do the same thing we did with the list view, just to make sure that it doesn't get to the list view if there's no token. We could do that with the home screen.
Cool. Next thing, or next pair.
You broke up a little bit. Did you say you're ready for the next?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
next
sorry.
pair.
Yeah. Jen, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first? Do you care? Okay. So it looks like first. So I guess we built a lot of this together in our group, but I guess we'll start here with the issue. Let's run all the way back up here to the top. All right. So our job was to be able to add to the shopping list from our component. So we have to, the user is presented with a form that allows them to enter the name of the item and select how soon they anticipate needing to buy it again, which is going to be visualized as soon, kind of soon, and not soon. When the user submits the form, the item is saved to the database and associated with the user's token, along with an item name and an integer corresponding to the estimated number of days until next purchase is saved. 7 for soon, 14 for kind of soon, and 30 for not soon. The last purchase date should be set to null initially.
Hey, James, can we so we can follow along? Can we share the screen?
Yes, I
Please?
thought it was my fault. Yep, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm on right here. We are the last purchase date should be set to null initially. In other words, you can create an item without purchasing it. And the item name should be displayed as a simple unordered list on the list view after they're added. So the first thing that we did was Zenzi and I together is we sat down in Cloud Firestore and talked about our structure. And you guys saw how we had nested it a few levels deep, trying to like be clear, more like, I don't know, verbose with our way we call this list, and then each list got a unique token, and then within that we were here it is right here, we were hard coding in users, and that, so that didn't work out too good for us. So with the help of Yinli and everyone else, we settled on having the collection start right here at the top level, and these are so generated token and user token are our way of hard coding in users. Whatever token they end up getting passed will start here, and within that you can have each user can have multiple entries or they're called documents here, and I like this. I think this structure works really good for us. So once we kind of had figured that out as a group and saw that, then we were able to jump into our code and fix that. Yeah, I read all your PR comments this morning, guys, about the comments and stuff. So we'll take care of that, clean that up real soon for you. I left them there because I wasn't sure like what I should or shouldn't touch when I'm not pairing with Zenzi. And so I just kind of, I wouldn't leave the stuff here either, but we weren't pairing, so I didn't want to just go do work. So for add item, we settled on using this form, and again, I read the comments about having a label here for accessibility, so definitely add that too. But we decided to go ahead and work with the select for the values of the time, how often we're going to purchase an item, and it's pretty basic form, but it calls to a create list item on submit function, and in here we are going to hard code a token for now. So if I change this, then that's when we get a new entry on the top level of our Firestore database. But for now, once we integrate with the other token PR, then we'll be able to actually pass this in, which is, I'm really excited about that. So we get from here, what we do is it's pretty basic. We set state for any of the values, and those are going to be passed in. Well, they're initialized here. Sorry, at the top as we use our use state hook, and we, I have a question about this. I'm not sure if it matters what we do with the use state on the purchase frequency. I don't know if it needs to be, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if there's a best practice. That was a question I forgot to ask a while back. But right now I just have it set at 0 because it doesn't matter, because they only have 3 options. It's going to be set to one of these when they select it. It's not like the 0 will ever hit the database. So within the create list item, this is where we structure our connection to the Firestore database, and you can see that we are passing in the state of item, purchase frequency, and last purchased whenever the user has updated that state with the form, and then we get back a reference to a successful addition to the item. So I think maybe this might be a good point to let Zinzi like kind of walk you through what it looks like when we do that on the if that's okay, Zinzi, on the in the in the actual app. Oh, I got comments. No, okay.
Let me share.
Yeah, what I meant by that comment is that there's like a whole class of issues where you kind of, there's this thing called the tri-state Boolean where you can have like null, false, or true, and sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good. But in this case, like, what are our valid values? I can't remember. It's like 714 or something. Yeah, if we put 0, like maybe later maybe down the line as the app gets developed, there's like a 0 is a valid form and true. And then, but then we're like initializing at 0, and then there's a potential input at 0. So if you're like debugging, looking at how did we get this value? It's weird.
Right.
You don't know whether it came from the initialization or being explicitly set. So you'll find developers like getting in a ring fighting each other with us. But I think null is a good place for, like, a null I don't think should ever be able to be set by like a user unless there's some kind of reset functionality. But in the way of like it's happening before a user ever interacts with it, I think null is totally valid.
Got it.
Similar to the last purchase, like we're explicitly null, it means like wasn't touched, wasn't set.
Got it. Makes sense. I like it.
Cool. Sorry, Zendy, I hopped in there.
No problem at all. Okay, so I'm going to switch over from add item to list.js. Share my screen here. Hopefully you all can see that. All right, thank you. So, he's pretty much walked you through the add item.js. I'm just going into list.js to show the code before we dig into the actual app for a moment. So this pretty much is the same as it was last week in terms of, in terms of adding a item in the list. I just switched this from list as the name to generated token because, like we already said, it's a hard-coded value that will eventually be replaced with the user token that we're creating with the rest of the team. And it displays in an unordered list per our brief. So this is what the app looks like right now. If you go to, oh boy, if you go to add an item, I'm just going to add something I don't think is there. We have a drop-down list. Hit submit. And let's see if, oh gosh, unordered. Okay,
it's right in the
carrot
center.
juice is there. So carrot juice is there in the middle. And if you go into our firebase, I'm hoping that it shows up quicker than it has in the past and is here somewhere. I should have maybe. Oh, there it is. So, so that is pretty much the entire list of items that we needed to pass on both ends. Are there any questions?
You know what I just realized, Lindsay, watching you do it, I just didn't think we need to have some sort of visual confirmation. Like, I think just clearing the state on the form when we hit submit is probably just one of the simplest. That we can add pretty easily. But I haven't looked too far ahead of the PRs, but do they have something where they kind of like you get a confirmation sort of something eventually?
I think it's in the coming issues. So one thing with the acceptance criteria or the issue when it describes is like once you add it, it should switch to the list view and show the list view. Usability wise, I'm not 100% on board with that. It's more of like what your team decides, right? Because what if you want to add like when you're making a list, you want to keep adding it. It kind of sucks that you always have to like click back to add list to add it. So that was what's describing the issue. But I think moving forward, I think the next issue is addressing that. But as a team, you get to decide usability wise how you want to do it. You want to handle for people to add multiple and keep going, then adding that confirmation and letting people know that, hey, it's added, then they can do whatever they want afterwards to look at the list.
Okay,
Mhm.
nice.
But yeah, that's,
And you could also
that's,
use the, you could also use the history API and push back to the list.
Mhm.
Now, if you think of some apps like some things like Rails, like Ruby on Rails or Django or any of these things, sometimes they'll kind of combine the two. So they'll actually like push to the previous view and then have kind of like flash banner at the top being like added successfully. Now that's something we're not going to worry about right now, but it's kind of like, oh, should we do a confirmation here? Should we like just go back to the list and that is the confirmation because you can see it in front of you, like the item on the list, or some combination of the two, or door three.
Right.
Kind of up to you.
Okay. Yeah, but I think for now, just probably clearing the form when it hits submit will be just probably at least some hint or clue that something happened.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so I guess we're done with demos. They look really good. Should we transition to the retro for Lauren?
Sure. Yeah, has anybody done a retro before? Or I saw there were some entries, but oh, okay. Zenzi, and Sky, can you guys talk about how you've experienced it before?
I did an apprenticeship and with the engineering team, and basically they had retros every 2 weeks. They used a software that timed everything. Like it basically all of the stuff that you listed, what went well, wins, losses, barriers, all of it, but everything was timed and everything was kind of anonymous. Yeah, but it listed all the steps that you've already listed. So I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out here.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. So actually, my job we don't do this. I was thinking I should ask if we can implement it. But the goal is really to get like a pulse check and to just see how everything's going. If we need to adjust going forward. And also it's to give kind of public acknowledgement for people that are doing great jobs, like so your partners can feel appreciated. So I saw that there were some comments already left there, and I'm just adding here's the link in the chat. So we'll just take maybe 5 minutes to try to go through, and if you don't want to leave a card in any particular column, that's okay, but feel free to leave as many as you want. And the goal should be to be about one per, but no pressure if you don't feel like adding something. So I'll go ahead and time it. And for the people that already left it, if you just want to, if you make any additions, feel free, and we'll start now. Okay, we have a minute left. Okay, awesome. Is everyone done? Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. And then as we get to your card in each column, I'll just say whose card it is, and then please feel free to summarize yourself and talk about anything that you wrote. Oh, well, of course, there we go. Okay, so the first one we have here is Sky.
This is my second cohort, and all cohorts have kind of different vibes. And I really like, one of the things that I'm like surprised by this, like the most lovely way, is seeing like you both hopping on each other's PRs, you're giving code comments, and it's not just like a strict review process. It's also kind of like, it seems to be coming from a place of like, hey, I've got this bit of knowledge that might totally help you out, and it's going like bi-directional, and I'm really loving it. It's like also going between mentors and mentees. Like I'm learning things like on Blur. Totally forgot about that, so I learned something from your PR comments this week. So it's kind of cool to see us all enabling each other.
Awesome. I think mine's next. So I'm really impressed with how hard everyone is working. Also, if you are working more than 5 hours or you feel, we don't want you to feel overworked, but I'm really impressed with how hard everyone was working, going up above and beyond. Jessica, I'm really impressed with your ability to like say what you need, how you need it, and to ask for help. Zenzi, in-house firebase expert, really impressed. You jumped into like new territory for 2 weeks. Anna, you're really great at pointing out very specific code that you felt like could be improved and to ask for help by mentors. And James, really great thorough reviews for your teammates. Those are really helpful. Yenli, really great job being present and supportive in Slack. And Sky, I really liked your in-depth and like thorough code reviews. So great job, everybody. Zenzi.
Yeah, like James was completely on it with the React this week. And even with the Firebase, which was new to him, it was just like, I could tell that his brain was just like chugging along and just pulling it apart and willing to just dive right in and get in there and kind of play around with it until he figured out how the hooks worked and how the Firebase worked, and like really kind of help us as a team move through the stickier parts of kind of creating the Firebase database and making it work with our code. So awesome working with him this week. Oh, I have another one. Just appreciated Yenli just being proactive and checking in with me this week, and just making sure that I was managing my time, because the beginning of my week is hectic in a lot of ways. So it's just nice that she understands that and is helping me work through that. Another one. Love Skylar's PRs. just been really happy because it's not like just one word or one sentence, like, you know, you could really kind of improve your state here, and me kind of scratching my head trying to figure out what to do. It tends to be very kind of explicit. These are some steps you could take. These are ways you could improve. And that's really, really helpful to me. So really happy with the way the critique is laid out.
Nice, thanks. James?
Yeah, you know, I didn't know what to expect coming in, you know, to our group in our collab lab, and you know, I'm just really grateful for how much the mentors are just like willing to, it seems like, sacrifice their own time or whatever to help us. I mean, I know you guys are doing, you signed up for this, and I get that, but it's just like the way you do it, how kind you are with your time. And once, you know, Sky hopped in that like hour-long Zoom call with me the other day, we went over a few things, and he's, you know, he broke things down for me, and like it was just, I don't know, I didn't feel rushed, didn't feel like it was an inconvenience. I really appreciated that. And then, you know, with the either in the PRs or in Slack, when I don't understand something, there's someone, I feel like someone's almost right there, like immediately like ready to go. And it's a great feeling, because you know, you don't want to kind of be feeling like either you're inconvenience other people, or like like maybe like you're hanging on too long waiting for something that it resolves quickly. So I'm extremely grateful for that.
Awesome, thanks. Anna?
I just kind of put everything in the same card. I just wanted to thank all the mentors, because you guys are incredible, and I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so happy to be a part of a little team. Like, I haven't had the chance to work with other people before, so this is something new, but it's been amazing, and I'm very happy. And I also wrote out a special thank you to James and Jessica, who were my partners so far. And they were so patient with me, because sometimes it's hard for me to articulate what I'm trying to say. And they were very patient with me, just being out on the screen and not knowing what to say. But they were super patient with me. And yeah, that's it.
All right. One of the things that stuck out to me is how feedback is given from everyone in the cohort. It really seems to be an awesome mix of healthy positivity, not this like fluffy positivity, you know, and fluffy kinds of compliments, which just kind of break my heart actually and make me just like, ugh. But everyone seems to be really constructive and sincere with their positive acknowledgement, but also weaving in how to improve, and maybe some suggestions, and being really clear about, this is a suggestion, take it or leave it, but explaining why it might be a good idea to take it. Yeah, it's been awesome. I really like how that's been working out with our group.
Okay, last but not least, Yanli. Oh, maybe there's a little more.
So I want to celebrate everybody for, you know, submitting your code and opening up for feedback, because that is a very vulnerable thing to do, and it's very hard to do, and you're doing really good. The other part that I want to say is, you know, I'm grateful to Lauren for hopping in here and going way above and beyond, like showing up for things outside of what you sign up for. And for Sky and the in-depth explainers in the code reviews, because I feel like I'm still working on how to explain these technical things, and having him jump in and really like explain in this way, and sharing all these, you know, how they're structured, was really a great learning experience for me. And also to the whole team, just in like trusting us and being patient, because, you know, we're, as mentors, it feels like we need to know everything, but at the same time, it's like we're also learning. So I really appreciated everybody's patience with that.
Okay, and last one, Sky.
Yeah, I popped this one in a little bit late. I just want a big shout out to Yenli. She's putting a lot of time to help the team find their footing individually with people, and then like working with the teams to ensure that they're, you know, I don't know, I refer to what could be improved. Like we broke master once because we accidentally pushed up, which is totally a team thing. But you like put in extra time to fix that, and that's amazing. And yeah, you're also keeping us on track. So Oh, thanks for that. No, so Jessica, are you sure you don't want a gold star? Stickers are cool.
No, I love stickers. They're great. Just I can't just gut a gold sticker. I need something else with it.
I know, I'm just teasing.
Okay, moving on to what went well. James, you're up first.
Sure. I'm really impressed with how I think quickly we all as a team kind of got on board with the PRs. I know there's definitely room for improvement, but I mean, considering where we were, I don't think any of us had really crafted too many PRs before. So considering that, I feel like it's great. It's such a useful tool. I had no idea that it was something I needed in my life, but now I have it, and it's awesome to be able to communicate that way. And I imagine we'll streamline our maybe our flow on that, and kind of perfect how we as a group craft and work in common NPRs. But that's so far, I think it's going really well. So that's why I put it there.
Sky.
Sorry, I took a bite of my breakfast. So in small group developmental theory, there's this kind of like idea of when you get a group together, you have to like form. You don't know each other, you got to kind of figure that out. And then you storm, you're kind of like, storming sounds dramatic, but it's more like kind of figuring each other out, finding your role in the team. And that kind of like turns into norming, like, okay, cool, we found our slots, how we interact with each other. And then performing is like, we're able to like take all that and then actually get real work done. And on this team, I mean, I know that we had issues the first week, and so it's kind of structured in a way to get you going quickly, but it happened really quick with this team. So it's nice to see everybody working in tandem with each other and kind of finding their niche. So, it's not super common to see it happen so quickly. And you all are awesome.
Yenli.
So what went well is asking for help outside of our team, and then also engaging our whole community. Like we sat together and tried to solve something, and we weren't able to in office hours. And just James, with the whole very detailed ask out there, I thought that was really great, because you put it all out there, and it really gives context. And whoever is available outside of the community or outside of our team was able to really look at it and go, "Have you tried this? Have you tried that?" And like, the fix was so quick. That was just amazing. I really love that feel of like, yes, team, we fixed it in like less than, I don't know, was it 5 minutes? So yeah, so I would like to see more of that too, in terms of like, we've been in this rabbit hole together for like an hour. Now let's reach outside of our team, because we want to engage in the whole community. So I want to see like that went really well.
Nice. For mine, these are, I guess, very granular, but I think you guys did a really great job of coordinating early on in the week, which is important with complicated schedules. So that was really nice to see. There's been a ton of communication in the Slack channel, and also the PRs have been regularly updated whenever you guys are really good at accepting some suggestions and constructive criticism. So that's been really great to see. And to tag on what Skylar said, I was just thinking this morning how you guys are randomly selected and put together. So, but I wouldn't have thought that, based on your interactions of everyone being very supportive of each other. So that's really cool to see. Zenzi?
I'll just, I guess a general Collab Lab shout out is that I really like the way the issues are constructed, with the criteria for completing your pull request being laid out in easy, kind of manageable, chunkable steps that can be taken. It makes just getting started less overwhelming and easy to understand what's necessary. So just really excited about how descriptive everything is so far.
That's great to hear. Jessica?
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of echoing some things that have already been said, which is totally fine. Communication has been awesome with everybody, which has been such a relief and so wonderful. And I really appreciate how willing everyone is even to communicate in the first place. And then the second one, mine there, similar to what Zenzi was saying, the flow of how to progress through a story, it's really starting to click for me. getting kind of settled into a process takes me a little bit, but once I'm in. So I'm really liking how the stories flow, and then just learning how to focus on what needs to get done versus kind of like learning that balance of how to think towards the future of the project, but also staying focused on, but what do I need to do this week? What do we need to do as a pair this week? And I feel like that's just, even just over the span of 2 weeks has already went even that much better, which is awesome.
Great. Anna?
I'm just so glad that we're able to build things. I mean, 2 weeks ago we had nothing, and now we have a little something, and we're going and doing what we're supposed to, and we're delivering our tasks, and that's a good thing.
Yanli?
Really good PR feedbacks and the questions, you know, like it really helps with the communication. I really love seeing that. And also to you know, what Anna said, you know, you build a little something. It's not really a little, it's big. It connects to a database, it's dynamic. That's all, like that is really hard to do. Getting the things to connect is the hardest thing. Like from here on out, it's gonna be easier, it seems.
Awesome. Okay, and now moving on to what could be improved on. Sky?
Oh yeah, I touched on this earlier. We got an accidental merge directly to master, the resulting cleanup. So this kind of issue is very typical in retros, is like, hey, what didn't go well, so that it's not like pointed towards a person. It's kind of more like, hey, how as a team can we, what collective things are we experiencing and how can we improve? So get off the meta topic. Here's this one. We had an accidental merge to master that required a little bit of cleanup. So if this is a process issue, not a person issue, and we can prevent merges to master and GitHub configuration if we want. You can, in a repo, you can just straight up, and sorry, I said master, it's called main now for reasons of equality and recognizing slavery particularly. So, but yeah, so with main, merging to master, main, basically the primary branch, you can kind of give yourself bumper rails. In some like in a company, your main branch might automatically deploy to production. So you want to make sure that you have checks. Not only can no developer just push to main, but also it requires that any PR that's going to be merged into main needs to be, it has to go through CI, it has to go through a testing suite, and it has to be approved by somebody. The reason why we don't have this is because we want, in the beginning, everybody to be able to push up to the contributors markdown file. And then also there is something to be said about allowing things to break, so we learn why these things, why there is the option to prevent being able to merge to main. So kind of an action item out of this is we could choose as a team, do we want that protection, or do we understand the issue well enough where we don't need to bother with it? And not but I just wouldn't raise that.
I say we leave it.
Okay.
For my own knowledge, I still don't know what I did. So that is a problem. Like I created a branch, and the branch was its own branch, and James was able to pull it down, but it was still pushing to main. And I don't know how, like what steps I did within Git checkout to make that happen. So that's the only kind of thing going forward, is that I'm trying to just be more careful, but I could repeat it because I don't know how I did it.
I don't know if anybody else has more visibility on it, but my theory, without much knowledge on what happened there, is that because you can create a branch and then you can set it upstream. So when you actually go to push, you need to specify the branch that you're pushing to. So you could do, if you were sitting on your new branch 1, 2, 3, and you did git push origin main, then you're kind of saying, hey, take my local branch and I want to send this branch up to that. So it's like, the idea is that a branch isn't necessarily the same locally as it is up. You could rename your remote branch, your upstream or remote branch, you can name it anything. So maybe you got a local branch, but try to push that to me. That's my theory on it. And just the way we could like do that is like we could maybe do a little quick doc or some kind of doc where kind of just maybe reiterates kind of the workflow of going through the creating branch, creating code change, committing a change, pushing that up. Maybe just revising that, reviewing that could be helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I also think that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, just based on the fix, I think that's what happened.
Okay. Yeah, so I want to say that it's actually good that this happened because this is a safe environment for you to make a mistake in pushing a branch, right? Like, Jermaine, like here you make the mistake, it's okay. And you learn from it and you realize that, oh, when I start a new job, when I join a new team, what are the process I can do to help myself to not repeat this in the future, right? Like doing a git branch, checking, do git status, checking your files before even doing commit. And then also there will be chances in the future where there's going to be a lot of branches. There's development branch, there's feature branches that teams will work on together, and being able to have a process for yourself to make sure that you're checking all these things before doing a commit is a good habit and practice. So then when you join a new team, it's lesser chances of this repeating. So I actually thought it's good that this happened in this environment, and it could be okay for us to not protect main and just experiment with this as well. Like the same thing, you can create your own repo, create a lot of different branches, and then try a lot of different pushes to practice this as well.
Yeah, good one, Yummy. And I'll just kind of chain off of that one more. Again, I have to say this isn't any one person. So in a team, like trying to come up with an example, like at Intercom, when I was working there, somebody pushed something to main and it took down I mean, like 30,000 customers suddenly weren't able to access our application. It was like, it was down, it was dead in the water. And you do, different companies call it different things, after action reports, retros, there's different ways to what we call post-mortems, which is kind of morbid. But they're basically, the idea is that after an incident, and like Zapier has this, as Lauren knows, but like the idea is afterwards you have some kind of document that you share that are kind of like, here's the timeline, here's how it happened, here's why it happened, here's some like actions, recommendations. So in this case, it's like, if you're in a good company, and I'd say most modern tech companies are like this, it's never going to be on the person. It's not going to be like, you took down the app and you're fired. It's more like, what in this situation allowed that to happen? Like, did we not have the right checks in place? Protection on a branch? Is our testing suite inadequate? It's rarely about a person. So just so you know, like psychological safety, if you, for whatever reason, you have in a company where somebody does get reamed out for causing a problem or taking down the app, like that's really toxic. And you'll find that's really rare because most companies are kind of have this process of digesting, like, what went wrong? Let's learn from it.
There was a meetup that I attended that was right around Halloween, and it was just developer horror stories. And so you just sat there for an hour and just listened to all of these disasters that happened. Nobody got fired. Every single story. And there was like international takedowns of product. So yeah, it was actually kind of felt good. It's like, oh, it's not that
I've heard so many deleted database stories, I can't even like count them. Just everybody dropping every table for every big company you can think of.
Little Bobby drop tables. If anybody doesn't know that, I'll add a link in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now I have nightmares for tonight. Awesome. Do we have any other comments of that? Did I cut anyone short? Okay. So for mine, yeah, like I said, the collaboration in Slack has been great. This week, I'd love to see a little bit more comments and actual PRs, just because it'd be nice if you guys get more of a chance to review before mentors do. And also, I think it would be awesome if we could have you guys try to merge this week or set that as a goal only because it's a really useful thing for you to take away from this. And I remember I learned that was really helpful for me to learn here. So yeah, that's it. Jessica?
Yeah, I think that I want to personally just be a little more proactive in communicating with the other pair, especially during the first few days of the week. It does nothing like, probably not anything too in depth necessarily, but just, at least for myself personally, just allowing myself to feel okay to ask them a question, even though I know that they're in the midst of trying to get into their project, to just know that it's okay to ask a question if there is anything that might be good to bounce off of them, or just double check. Yeah, to think it through a little, but also be like, are we allowed to jump in the other team's thread? I'm assuming we can,
Yes.
but
Yeah, that was more just a way to keep the conversation related to each pair together, but anyone can feel free to jump in.
okay, cool. Yeah. Nice. Thanks.
Awesome. Yenli?
Yeah, so that leads to my card. I want to encourage people to be louder in Slack in terms of, sharing what you learn, like with the Git branch fixing, right? Like, what did you learn from that process? Write it out. That helps you to communicate and explain things. So if you share it in our channel, or even if you want to share it in the learning channel in the greater community, it's really helpful for people to come back and address that whole threading, right? When the other team's discussing something with the other pair, I think it's helpful to jump in and be part of conversation. Like, this is the whole part of working and collaborating together. Some issues will overlap each other. So definitely feel free to hop in and help each other. And I think that's really critical, I think, in a team, because you want to work with people who are going to be, like, it's always going to be a continued conversation. The set of changes, there's a conversation in there. I think we're going to do a learning module on communication as a whole. So where are different ways that you can share what you learn, then it helps lift everybody up more in that way. So same thing with, like, the next card is in a code review. Like, I understand it's very vulnerable to be like writing like, oh, I don't know, or I'm not sure. But by adding your thought process in the draft PR, it helps other people understand where you need help earlier on. And people can chime in, because sometimes it's like asking other people to be your rubber ducky kind of thing, which is a really great process to think through as well. So those are things I would like to see more of.
Great. And last one is Anna.
I just think we could improve our timeline a little bit, because it feels like the past 2 weeks we stayed in our draft PR until like the very last minute, and we merged it like on Sunday, I think. So I think maybe we could just try and improve on that process and have our things ready a little bit earlier, just so that we don't start the week with leftover work that we could have already taken out of the way.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for your feedback.
Real fast, I don't know. I had a what could be improved comment, but it's not there, and I just looked and confirmed online. I don't know. I guess I didn't hit send or something. No, I was just gonna say, mine's more about me, I guess. I feel like I'm not like as and it's gonna tie into all the things that we're talking about, as like maybe as communicative as I should be, and in terms of either asking, for clarifying thoughts or explanations on something else that someone's working on. So like, because I'll do that, I'll look at it, I'll read it, and I'll go, oh, I don't really understand this, but I'll get, we'll talk about it. But I need to be better about just going, hey, Slack or PR, here we go, what do you mean by that, or whatever. And then also on the flip side of that is I don't think I'm being as forthcoming with like praise and stuff like that as I should be. I realize that maybe I need to improve more about how I communicate what you guys are doing really well, or what I think is awesome too, better too. So I want to speak that into the universe so that I do it now. So that's it. And that was the only thing I really had. Otherwise, I did want to say one thing about the comment that someone who, if you scroll where I can look at mine, let's see. yeah, so Jessica said, you know, being more communicative with each other in Slack. I totally agree. I feel like we're definitely not utilizing that enough to even if like you're working with a different person and you're on a different you know, issue, bouncing ideas off of each other more, structuring what we do together more, I guess is what I mean. Like it'd be, you know, I feel like we're kind of like more compartmentalized when we're doing our, but it'd be nice to be like, hey, do you want to do this as a you know, a form, a div, a select, whatever? Like, what do you guys think? Do you have an opinion about that or whatever, something like that? Because then that would help, I think, involve everyone in the process better, and we'll be more on the same page about what we're working on.
Well, thank you.
So we're at 9 o'clock. I just want to raise up for everybody one more. I don't know. Do we have like? Do we want to take action items on those? We can make a decision on the no protection domain. I'm on board with that. I would say that there was kind of a theme there of the like the cadence of the team, and I'd say that from the mentor side, like personally, what I can do is I can try to get in there and review earlier, so we can get some of the recommendations early, so you have more time to act on those. That can be my commitment to the team. And then just everybody can come in default to transparency, sharing more, being louder in the channel, and any blockers you have. That these are probably all things that will help us end up with a PR that can be emerged earlier.
Just for clarification,
Any other one? Action.
Can just someone explain, because we tend to create the draft PR almost immediately as soon as we're able to, but when should it move from draft? Should that be after our office hours or after we've met all of the criteria?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is the way it typically works in industry is that a draft, want to get that up as early as possible. In the same idea, this rubber ducky, this default to transparency, this kind of like be open so that people can kind of put in their comments. When you move it into your kind of non-draft or like ready to review stage, like yeah, once I would say when you meet your acceptance criteria, when you're ready for it to be like properly reviewed. I would put it there. Now I understand why there's confusion on that, because we've been kind of treating, we've just been reviewing all over the place. But typically in industry, it would be like, hey, here's the thing I'm sharing. Feel free to leave some comments if you want. And then once you're actually done, once it meets the criteria, then you make it a real PR, and then that's kind of inviting people to like come in and actually review it, because you don't want people going in there too early. Well, you're like, no, I'm still working on that. Don't look at that thing. So it's kind of a signal thing, but we have to get how it's turned. Really done a lot. One other action item is I will make a write-up on how the put to name occurred, and write up I'll share some notes on. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Are there any others that I missed?
I think we're good. Since we're almost out of time, I think we should roll on to issues for this week. I will share my screen. Cool. So, yeah, so I guess to kind of do some cleanup for this week. I know that I think both groups have some work to do, but basically just once you're ready to go, maybe ping for a re-review. Which you can do in. Sorry about the background noise, by the way. I don't like to have the coffee grinder. So if we go to one of these pull requests, whenever you're ready, you can this little icon here. You can re-request a review. So if you wanted to be like, hey, Tyler, everybody, like we want to re-review, just go click on these re-reviews. So you can do that. But let's focus on the new ones. So I'll click through to 5 here. As a user, I want to join an existing shopping list so I can share a shopping list with another person. So this is kind of continuing off of the work of one of the tickets we last week. where you're reading from that file and getting a 3-word token. And the idea is that we're going to create some user interface where you can enter an existing token and then save that token to local story. So the kind of the user story is, Anna has a shopping list. She wants Skylar to be able to add things to that shopping list. So she shares the token with him, and he has a place he can go in and paste that token or type it in. And when you submit it, the list shown will be the same list as Anna has in the Millennium. So there's some acceptance criteria here when the user doesn't already have a token. Simple form is displayed to allow them to enter it. Yeah, we went over that. Entering the token and hitting submit saves it to local storage, effectively giving them joint control of the list. Yep. On submit, show an error if the token doesn't exist. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. So the idea is there's going to be some function that's going to check, and if it doesn't exist, you're going to surface some kind of error, which we talked about error handling, how we can do that a little bit earlier on the beginning of this call. So it's something to think about, something new that we haven't done yet. And get an error message, allow them to try again or create a new list. So maybe there's, you just want to make sure you have the ability to either subscribe to that again or just create a new one. I think we already have a create a new list button, so maybe there's no work to be done there. On number 6 here, in the user, I want to be alerted when I'm entering an item by claiming something already on the list so I can avoid duplicate items. Show an error message. Yeah, more error handling. The user tries to submit a new item that has the same exact name. So that's going to be something there's going to be, you're going to have the list locally, and you're going to want to be like, oh, iterate on that list and check to see if this thing that I'm trying to add already is there. Show an error message if the user tries to submit a new item that has the same name where capitalization has been normalized and punctuation has been removed. Okay, so not only are you just going to check to see if Apple lowercase is in there, you probably want to check to make sure that when you're doing that comparison against the things in the list, that you're maybe downcasing, maybe upcasing, and just however you want to kind of take the thing you're comparing it and the thing that you're getting from the user input, make sure that maybe they're both lowercase or both uppercase, or make sure they both have white space removed so that we're actually and punctuation's removed. So there might be some regex if you're familiar with that, or some other kind of JavaScript functions that kind of sterilize your input to make sure you can do an appropriate comparison, because you don't want like apples with an apostrophe before the S, which would be a misspelling, but you would want to make sure that apples with an apostrophe you need to match with apples, because we can assume in the story that those are the same. And the user's original input should be what gets saved in the database. Cool, so that kind of tells you which one's right. Never go and save a thing that you've gone and modified for the purposes of the comparison. Does anybody have questions on, I guess we'll start with this one, the checking or being able to add or subscribe to an existing list via the unique token.
I don't have questions, but I'd really like to do that one. If Zenzi is okay with it, and if the others are okay with it too.
All righty. Well, I like the initiative.
It seems really fun.
There we go. And any questions on this kind of comparing and making sure that we don't have dupes?
I don't think so right now.
Just one clarifying question on the last bullet point. The user's original input should be what gets saved in the database. What does so I understand. So you try to enter in something. User tries to enter in something. We have a function that checks to see if it exists. It does exist. So we're going to say, as you know, here's an error message. If it doesn't exist, is that what the third point means? It gets saved.
Yeah, I think it's if it doesn't exist. So if you do the comparison and it does exist in some other spelling, then surface the error. That is kind of interesting. It is kind of a weird conflict conflicting things. But yeah, if it doesn't exist, make sure that you use the original spelling, because it would be confusing for them to add a new item and then have it show up modified.
Okay, so we keep the whatever they type. So if they did capital, like one of Lauren's examples there, that's all like capital, lowercase.
Are we
If
saying,
Apple,
we're
then,
saying,
then it goes in to the database that way that they.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, trust the user's input. Don't try to modify what the user's saying. But if you're making, apples with crazy case, we call it, like, and it already exists in the database as normal lowercase, surface an error to that effect. Now,
okay.
this does bring up an interesting thing where, okay, well, how do we surface that error? Because maybe the person will go back and look at the list and say, my thing isn't there, and it is there, just as a different case. So maybe that error message might, you don't want to be too verbose and be like, hey, by the way, your spelling is different. See the difference between the two. Maybe don't go with that, but maybe your error would include the spelling of the one in the database. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's super.
I think that's exactly what I'm envisioning too. This guy is blank exist. Or can we offer a check that overrides? Say, no, I don't care. I still throw it in there anyway. Do something like that, or no?
Well, I think by the acceptance criteria, I wouldn't go so far as overriding. But your implementation. This isn't like, we're not on Rails here. You can implement this how you want. Just I would say it would be adding functionality that we're not asking for. And if you think about this, and if you're working with a team, I've done this many times. I've been like, oh, I'm going to go optimize this thing and make this super awesome. And then I realized, oh, wait, actually, you trust your manager, your engineering manager, or your product manager to, schedule the team appropriately based on, you're going to have like a story point estimate of how much time they think this should take. And so if you go off the rails and start building things that aren't part of this issue, you might not accomplish the next ticket in your allocated team. So you got to be trust your manager to kind of meter out the work. It sounds a little nanny-ish, but I think it's
got it.
That would be like error. That would be kind of functionality that we haven't prescribed in our by the product manager, how they're going to the product to work. Cool. So yeah, well, y'all beat me to it. We've got the assignees. So we will move these over 5 and 6 over to in progress, but don't feel too much pressure there. Let's focus on getting these ones merged. If we can do that today, that'd be awesome. So we can start the week fresh. But it is their weekend. It is Sunday. Well, I don't know. And we do have that 5 hours of time. But don't bum yourself on TCL. That's not a good representation of the tech industry. But unless somebody else has any closing comments or thoughts, questions, criticisms, we should be good to go for the rest of our Sunday. And I will. Oh, go ahead. I'll be doing office hours this week.
Okay.
Is the same time working for everybody? All right. See you all there. You had something, James?
Oh, I was just gonna say, Cindy, if it's okay, just those few changes of pulling out the commented out code and adding that ARIA label for accessibility on the form. I'll just push this up pretty quickly. Is that okay? And then we can talk about updating our PR for peer review again.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of time over the next 24 hours, so I'm a little bit concerned about this merge stuff that we're supposed to do. But yeah, James, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just those few little changes, and then we'll get we can get merging.
Yeah, at this point, James, if you feel like you want to move ahead without Zenzi, then I think it should be fine because you're on the same page about what's going to happen.
Okay.
I think as a team, coordinate with the other pair to figure out who should merge first to see if there's potential conflicts that would have to deal with?
I think that it makes sense for them to, because we'll be adding more to a component, and then and they've added a little bit less to one of them to the add list one. So I think that'll be easier too. I guess it's but
Do you want us to merge now then, or would you? I didn't get that.
I would say I think both PRs, I don't remember, I need to take a look, but one or both PRs had some comments that hadn't been resolved. One good way of making that PR clear is if you're going down and you see a comment that's already been addressed, or you're going to disregard and not address, just hit resolve and it'll kind of collapse down. And so it kind of cleans up the history. And it also makes clear to anybody coming in, like, oh wait, did they merge that when they're like open issues? Because some comments are kind of descriptive, some are nice to retain for history, and some are kind of subjective. You're like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not part of it. So you can see on a different topic. Desi, thank you.
If we merged first, or if we waited for them, that's what I didn't.
Oh, you mean like one team? If you're ready to merge, go ahead and merge. But make sure that, if you've had any comments in the last day on your PR, make sure those are resolved before going ahead and merging. And get approval. You can ask for that re-review that I was showing there.
Okay.
And then if anybody has issues with the merge conflicts that kind of come up with that, similar to last week, I'll be available today to hop on with that.
Yeah, and there's also the video in case you guys want to, like, if you reach the conflicts, you can review that part just at the very end.
Oh yeah.
So
thanks, Lauren. And Zenzi, thanks for being honest about your time availability. That I can really demonstration of like our teamwork and being honest about your commitments, and we have lives, so we should need to support and lift each other up. So thanks for picking that up as well, James. Alrighty, see you on the Slacks.
Yeah, we'll
have a lovely Sunday.